69 News. I am also going to be recording if that's okay.
Just say yes. So go
I'm not
ahead.
sure who that was, but
Thank you. It's Chad Blimline from 69 News. Thank you.
sure. The more the merrier. More people get to see this stuff, the better we are.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone. There's been a lot of interest in this. This topic and its importance to Berks County. I'm Dave Myers. I'm the director of the Berks Alliance, and I want to thank you and welcome you to our session, our community forum this month, where we're going to talk about Imagine Berks 1 year in, and maybe even further into the future. I want to introduce John Weidenhammer, who's the chair of the Berks Alliance, for brief comments as well. John?
Good morning, everybody. And Dave, thanks for your work in trying to do the fine work of organizing this presentation. This is a really important topic for our community to get an update on what the county has accomplished thus far with the Imagine plan. I think it's a great opportunity for us to hear about that. So I want to thank our presenters for taking the time to share with the community what's going on relative to the Imagine plan. Also, just to remind everybody that the Berks Alliance is a collaboration of anchor institutions in Berks County, and we have a focus on community development with the idea of trying to improve the health, wealth, and education attainment of the community in Berks County. So with that, Dave, I'll turn it back to you and just say that I'm looking forward to really fantastic and informative presentation. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, John. So I'm going to cover really quickly some ground rules that we have for the session. As I said, please keep your cameras on, but mute your microphones so we don't have a whole lot of background noise. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen, there's a chat function. So you please submit your comments and questions through the chat function. We will get to those after the formal presentation. I may call on you individually, or I may just go through the questions as we see them here. But feel free to share your thoughts and opinions and questions with us. This is an interesting topic. We did a program about a year ago on the creation of this Imagine Berks program. We're now 1 year into it, and there's been some significant progress. I want to start by introducing the person who's going to run us through the slides, at least initially, Pam Shupmenet. Pam, just this week, was identified as the Developer of the Year for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania by the Pennsylvania Economic Development Association. So we have a rock star with us. No pressure, Pam. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And I do want to say that I have shared now on more than one occasion that being able to work on and implement the Imagine Berks plan, certainly as my kind of list of accomplishments was put together, that the implementation of this Imagine Berks plan is truly a highlight of my career. So working with many of the folks who are part of this and on here today, and being able to interact with the community and make an impact is just, I think, a profound way as I get towards the twilight of my career instead of the beginning of my career. So what I'd like to do is walk you through a presentation that we've provided. And Dave, if you can just say yes, that you're seeing my shared screen.
Yes, I'm sharing your shared screen.
Wonderful, thank you. I really want to start out by saying that the collaboration, cooperation, and commitment of our project team has really driven many of these first-year results. David Hunter and Ashley Showers, who are on the Berks County Planning Commission team, Ken Pick and Jamie Perez from the County Redevelopment Authority, Jeremy Zaborowski from the Berks Industrial Development Authority, and Derek Harris, who works with me here as part of the Department of Community and Economic Development. This team already had established relationships in our community with a lot of stakeholders and partners in community and economic development. But I will say that this plan certainly has catalyzed many of those relationships and certainly deepened and broadened them. We do have, in addition to the presentation that you'll see here, an actual one-page report and a one-page summary, and they are available on our website, imagineberks.org, which is part of our one-year update. We did go in and give it kind of a fresh look, and a lot of that was supported through our County Planning Commission and our design planner. So the plan continues to be led by some overarching key principles that we really do keep top of mind and continues to direct our work. The definite commitment to opportunity jobs, and not just jobs that we're not interested in actively recruiting and pursuing jobs that don't offer a career pathway or sustaining wage to the residents of our community. We're prioritizing redevelopment, and you'll see that in a lot of the resources that we've actually put out into Berks County. We do understand that we've got to consider how we are an economically sustainable community. And if we want to provide the level of services that we provide now as a county, we have to figure out how we can have a sustainable tax base. We want to be accountable so we can report back on the progress. I always say the good, the bad, the ugly. We have in this past year positioned the county as a regional partner formally, and that we have been part of the South Central SEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, which is a base requirement for pursuing EDA money. So we are part of that 9-county region. And we also recognize and support the growing diversity of our Berks community. And we think that's a really key tenet also of our Imagine Berks implementation. We have been able to identify and realize an incredible amount of success in the first year. And we have been able to identify and fund projects that I will say would have otherwise been difficult, if not impossible, to undertake, and projects that would be impactful in our community and have a legacy impact on our residents. And these, what you're seeing here, represented in this $28 million. And we do have the further detail of this broken out on a dashboard on our website. We have put project and program monies out into the community across Berks County, from Kutztown to Boyertown, including the city. We're now putting out dollars into a number of recreation projects, thanks to the Greenway plan being incorporated into the Imagine Berks plan. So it's just really wonderful to see that we have incredible geographic diversity in our resource deployment into the county. So some of the projects and programs that are represented in this 28 million are completed. Some of them are underway because, for example, this does include the county's commitment to establishing a $5 million infrastructure fund with the Berks County Industrial Development Authority. So it's just pretty amazing that we've been able to utilize, talk about timing, that in our county, we were able to utilize ARPA dollars, American Rescue Plan dollars that came into our county to be a significant part of the implementation of our plan. So in the first year, one of the things that we determined was that we had 6 focus areas, and we said, hey, 2 of these have some pretty similar action steps, strategies, goals, and we're going to put them together. So we actually took business, industry, and growth, and infrastructure and land use, and put them together into one focus area that we now call BUILD. We love our acronyms in development. And so the intent of that combined focus area, encouraging industrial commercial redevelopment and land development that increases tax base, are now all part of one focus area. So we accomplished in year 1 mapping our assets in sewer and wastewater, and our broadband mapping was also completed. We think it's very important to make sure that our plan action steps are implemented in sound data. And this is part of it. And thank goodness we have partners like the County Planning Commission and other departments in the county that we can bring all of their work together under one plan. We are very committed to supporting agribusiness industry growth as part of the plan. So in December of 2022, and many of you may not know this, our County Department of Agriculture was significantly expanded. We brought on board and named a deputy director who has a specialization in ag preservation, which was the primary focus of the department, but also recognizing that we've got to support the depth and breadth of our agribusiness community. And so we brought on 2 additional full-time inspectors and 2 program staffers so that we can undertake the full, again, breadth and embrace our ag community and how we support them. And I've already mentioned the regional cooperation because we've completed and adopted the SEDS, which is a 9-county regional plan for South Central, and Berks County is a part of that. It also includes absolutely need to mention this at all times when we're talking about expansion of infrastructure in Berks County, supporting the passenger rail expansion, which includes an incredible number and array of partners. Our county commissioner, Christian Leinbach, continues to chair the authority, the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority, in cooperation with 2 other counties, and as I mentioned, many other partners. And we are implementing the administration of $750,000 that we received for a service development plan. So many things happening on that front. And, you know, that always deserves a separate report out because we need to include that as part of our mid and longer range strategies for economic development in the county. Also, very importantly, positioning the airport as an economic development asset. So in the past year, the county commissioners have taken over the authority leadership out there. Not only, you know, we put up, gosh, there's a new website, but we have an incredible number of development opportunities that we are currently pursuing at the airport, and lots more to come on that front in year 2 implementation. But we have really set the stage in year 1 for us to take the airport, I'm going to say, to new heights. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it. Also, talk about the involvement of our planning commission and staff. 9 regional meetings were held throughout Berks County. And when our planning commission directors first started talking about these regional meetings, and you know, David was pretty focused on housing, and you know, we had to get out and really talk to communities about this. I said, I think we need to talk about the breadth of our plan and about land use, competing land uses within our municipalities, and of course about the power of working together. And I cannot say enough about the staff time commitment that went into that in conjunction with the Reading Berks Association of Realtors, the IDA, the Redevelopment Authority, our partner, the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance. There was a real recognition that we had to get out into the community and pursue interactive dialogue. And work was done pre-meeting, work is being done post-meeting, and it actually is resulting, and this is kind of drum roll, please, over 8 joint comp plans at this point that have been identified. And that number, I think, is going to continue to grow because joint comp plans are one of the key tenets of smart growth. Our municipalities working together, and our planning commission and their leadership has done an outstanding job of helping municipalities understand how important this is in our community. So an absolute win and success for us through those regional meetings. On the small business and entrepreneurship front, wonderful things have been happening in terms of identifying additional financial resources that can be deployed into our small business and entrepreneurship community. We've provided $100,000 to the FLIC program. $35,000 has been provided so far through that particular program. There have been loans for over $136,000 through a new small business lending program that is administered by NHS with funds through our Greater Berks Development Fund. We also have identified that we needed to do more access to financial resources for entrepreneurs, and we are about to fund another micro grant program through the Berks Launchbox and a micro loan program using the Barrio Alegría to administer that program, and that's in conjunction with a private sector partner, the Riverfront Credit Union. This focus area also included outreach to figure out how we do a better job of business-to-business procurement within Berks County and local sourcing. And one of the greatest areas that we've experienced success is working together with the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance to do a Grow Together local food map. It is found on growtogetherberks.com. There is a directory, and there's been such significant interest in, we're looking for new ways. Do we need to do a print publication? How we keep it up to date? And the fact that there are over 225 farms and farm businesses listed is just an incredible success story of the partnership that we put together using that web platform in conjunction with GRCA. This is one of the project awards that we provided. And we provided it to a women-owned business called Dirt to Dinner, who recognized that they needed to connect producers who might not otherwise have access, more full access to markets, to connect with those markets and really understand that we can get fresh product when we cooperate together more easily to our retail markets. And one of the other things that was done by this group was to reach out to schools and be able to provide fresh local produce that is sourced locally, that otherwise would not have been able to be enjoyed in our local school districts. Under talent and economic mobility, well, talent has been top of mind for our businesses and employers, and our focus area really has been on how we get opportunity jobs connected with those who might not have the skill sets yet for some of those opportunity jobs. So we've provided funds to iLead for a HiSET program. The goal is to graduate 90 of the entrants from the HiSET program. An incredible partner for the county has consistently been Berks Connection Pretrial Services. Oh my gosh, Nikki, I know you're on the call.
Leonora, you're gonna hurt yourself.
Proud of you.
You're gonna hurt yourself. Here,
Say it out loud, Nikki.
Come here, come here.
Connection
Come here.
Trial Services. You got it right. I'm so proud.
Thank you.
Here.
You know
wanna show
what
you.
an incredible partner when you
Are you
have
okay?
a program also come to our
Oh, the
community through the whole home repair funds, and there's workforce development funds that come along with housing rehabilitation program, and BCPS stepped up to the plate. They're immediately top of mind for how do we bring in a great workforce development partner, and they're there for us. So Nikki, thank you so much for that. Also, connecting program providers who are delivering ESL training at businesses that is geared toward incumbent workers, because we want our incumbent workers in expanding their English language skills to be able to move up the career pathway. And we've seen a lot of activity in year one through our support of the Meet Greater Reading brand, which is championed through the GRCA, and a talent strategy, specifically attraction strategy brought on board through roll call, and really figuring out how we work closely with our employers to support them as they are looking to attract and to retain their new workers. So that's just been an incredible partnership that we've had there. And I will say, here's an incredible success story from year one. Two healthcare programs and curriculums being supported by our community project funding, the White's Healthcare Pavilion, and the John and Karen Arnold School of Nursing. We were able to provide $1 million in grant funding to both of those institutions, and know that that's just going to see incredible results for us. And even on top of that, the county receiving a nursing pathway grant of $176,000. I mean, just a lot of synergies coming together on the project side and the program side here. And, you know, our statistic is that nurse practitioners, medical and health services managers, and physician assistants are among the top 5 high priority occupations that are expected to increase by 2030. So we are going to be incredibly poised as a community to be producing the talent that goes along with that particular profession. Placemaking. Wow. Placemaking, we found, is an incredibly broad topic area that we really needed to break down a little bit as we started our year 1 implementation. You know, in December of 2022, the county commissioners formally adopted the County Greenway Park and Recreation Plan. You know, I got to give an incredible shout out again to our County Planning Commission. Ashley Showers there and her team that she worked with at the staffing level just put an incredible amount of time into this. And it meant a lot to be able to incorporate that directly into the Imagine Berks plan. So we recognize that everything that's intertwined in placemaking, the public space and trails, the messaging, the Main Street and commercial district revitalization, it's really a lot. So in year 2, you will see us breaking down that focus area so that we can really concentrate on the implementation of the Greenway Plan and trail connectivity and public space enhancement throughout our community. We are just putting out at the end of this year, at the direction of the County Planning Commission staff, about $230,000 to implement recommendations that come out of the Greenway Plan. And next year, we'll be putting out another $250,000, deploying resources into the community specifically for Greenway implementation. So we actually, in year 1, and you're seeing on here, we have an incredible commitment to main streets in our districts. We spent about $3.2 million of that $28 million that I mentioned is going towards implementation of projects in our communities. And it just really means a lot to, you know, the note on here is we're solidifying them as points of destination. We really are, because we recognize the importance of our boroughs in Berks County and to smart growth and sustainability. So here's a highlight of one of our success projects. The Kutztown Community Partnership purchased the Kutztown Strand. And if you've been to Kutztown, you know that this particular property is going to provide an incredible anchor to a lot of the work that gets done in the downtown and really provide incredible event and community space. So we couldn't be happier to be supporting the Kutztown Community Partnership as that project gets underway. And now is my opportunity to introduce you to Jamie Perez. Jamie Perez came on board with us in April. He officially works for our County Redevelopment Authority, who stepped up and said, hey, you know, one of the recommendations is to hire a housing planner. We can help with that. And between the leadership of Ken Pick and cooperation with the director of our Planning Commission, David Hunter, Jamie has hit the ground running, and the passion and the enthusiasm and the kind of general belief in all things Berks County has just really brought an incredible inspiration to our project team. And we're so pleased that he could join us. And at this point, I'll turn the presentation over to Jamie, and I will still guide
Thank you.
You just let me know when you're ready.
Absolutely. So as Pam had described, thank you so much for that, by the way. I am the housing planner. I am over here at the Berks County Redevelopment Authority. I think it was a great decision for a housing planner to be at the redevelopment authority because the plan identifies housing really in several buckets, but you have the new construction element, and then you have the strong need to address the redevelopment opportunities that exist within our current communities. Redevelopment strategies are important because we have to take care of our existing housing infrastructure, as well as develop new housing opportunities. So being at redevelopment gives me a unique perspective. I think it's new for everyone to have a planner on this side, but it's been very interesting, and I'm very happy to be part of this team, working alongside Pam, David Hunter, and Jeremy Zabrowski. And Derek Harris has really been great. And I think over time, this will show itself to have been a great decision. We can go to the next slide now as well. So the first thing that I focused on was the plan itself, because it was very well put together. And really the bottom line is that housing stock is not meeting housing demand. That's not unique to Berks County. It's not unique to Pennsylvania. It truly developed into being a nationwide problem at this point. So it's unfortunate that we are where we are with it, but we are lucky in Berks County to have a good bit of naturally affordable housing. The price of housing in Berks County is not as high as some of our other neighboring communities, so we do benefit from that. So we get a good opportunity there to continue to house people and families that are coming into Berks County for work opportunities, relocating families, and aligning our plan and goals with formation strategies of families and the workforce is extremely important, and that's something that we spend a great deal of time and effort on doing. And I think we're doing a good job at that. So we do partner with the Economic Development Department as well as GRCA, which actually this forum is one that I particularly enjoy, the Berks Alliance, just because it's wide. You have a wide audience here. One of the items that we're working on is the need to really support the local planning and zoning hearing boards throughout the municipalities. I think that's something that came out from the regional meetings. It became clear to me, at least, that they do need support, but we also need them to communicate their needs to the county, to the planning commission, to whomever it is that they feel comfortable speaking with, so that we can help onboarding more housing opportunities throughout the county. We can go to the next slide now. The plan strategies were to assess and address the mismatch between housing stock and housing demand. So we noticed that at the time we had a good bit of blight. Luckily, we had the whole homes renovation program that was coming out. So we used that program to help aid with some of the blight that was in the neighborhood, and not blight as in legal blight, but blight as in more like just people who can't afford or have the opportunity to make necessary repairs to their property. So the redevelopment authority is working on that. We also work with the Berks County Planning Commission and to promote housing development and adaptive reuse, promote adaptive reuse as well for obsolete commercial and industrial properties, which is very important. There's a great deal of properties scattered throughout Berks County that present themselves as really good redevelopment opportunities. So we're building an inventory of that so that we're ready to tackle those challenges and put some effort into those redevelopment opportunities. And of course, the workforce housing, that's extremely important. We can't develop our workforce or continue to grow if we don't have affordable home ownership or rental opportunities for the workforce. That's extremely important. It keeps us growing. Berks County is a growing county, and having strategies around workforce housing is important for us. Go to the next slide, please. So the year one actions, we had previously mentioned the regional meetings that were hosted by the Planning Commission. Those provided valuable insight and opportunity for us to gather feedback from our municipalities. We were able to advance and understand better the challenges that the municipalities face with projects that come about, and also get a better understanding of what goes where, which becomes an important part of this, so that if we identify development opportunities for unit count, maybe we have an idea of where to direct those resources. We also refocused the smart growth housing implementation team. So that is something that I took on personally. I think that's a great forum. And I basically partnered with a lot of people, a lot of entities that are already in the housing industry, and just gave them an opportunity to speak on what they're doing to help aid with the housing crisis that we're in, really. And also create that synergy, create that ecosystem of communication that's going to really be needed in order for us to find our way through this current set of circumstances. So just at the last meeting that we had Suzanne Cody from MG Architects. She made a presentation on an organization that she's recently affiliated herself with, and it brought about a lot of conversation, and we also have just been aiding in that process. We also launched the Whole Homes Renovation Program, the Homes Repair Program, which was funded by the Commonwealth. It's administered here at Berks County Redevelopment Authority. Berks County received over $3.6 million in funding, which is something that we're very happy about. Pam, we can go to the next one. One of our partners in the WHRP program is Habitat for Humanity, being that they are already working in the city of Reading on housing related things and actually building housing at the Buttonwood Gateway. We administer some of the program with them for the city of Reading, and they're doing a great job with that. You can go to the next slide. And as Pam had previously mentioned, the program does allow for workforce development. So for that, we connected with Berks Connections Pretrial Services, their R3 program, which is a great program. It helps reduce recidivism, and they partner with the Berks Career and Technology Center, the Reading Muhlenberg Career and Technology Center, as well as other opportunities that they provide there. And reducing recidivism is extremely important for our community, and WHRP funding allowed that type of workforce development to occur, and we took advantage of that. You can go to the next slide. So what does year two look like? We have a housing investment program to accelerate development of attainable and accessible housing. So that is something that within the next year, we hope to have advanced on. Just trying to direct some resources to the opportunities that are out there in a meaningful, impactful way is extremely important for the team, and we continually work on that. We will continue to promote adaptive reuse, redevelopment of obsolete properties and sites. The state actually recently launched a sites program that we are evaluating as well. So there's some new funding opportunities for that type of development to occur, and we are definitely on top of that. I'm also in the process of building out a housing toolkit that will provide housing strategies and pathways to development opportunities throughout Berks County. My end goal there is that the housing toolkit aids not only the developer, but also the municipalities, so that it kind of acts as a guide that's built out from the comprehensive plan in such a way that it aids in the the ability for everyone to just be on the same page as far as development opportunities, the tools that are out there for it, the funding sources that are out there for it. I think putting that all together is going to be important, and I think that's something that we could potentially see in the early part of next year. And then, of course, increasing communication with municipalities on topics such as zoning and community planning. That's in my opinion at the top of the list. We do have to have increased communication with municipalities and zoning, but that's a two-way street. We need them to communicate those needs with us as well, so that we can help aid the development process. Next slide, please. And then in process and beyond, this is what we have after year two. What comes next, right? Some things that we're paying attention to are CHODO opportunities, which CHODO is an acronym for Community Housing Development Organization. Through the years, we have lost some of the previously designated CHODOs. There is one, Berks Housing Opportunities, that is in the process of getting the board in the right structure so that they can move forward and perform CHODO projects. While that's not going to provide a huge opportunity, we're in an environment here where every unit counts, every opportunity counts. We can't be in position to miss out on anything. We have to take advantage of every opportunity that we can get. And I think that CHODOs can play a really good role in the future development of our housing needs. And of course, we pay attention to any transit-oriented development opportunities with the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority forming in Berks County. There is some zoning changings that will occur as a natural part of that. Being aware and being on top of that is very important as well, so that we can identify and connect future development opportunities with the right entities and ensure that all of that works out as best as it can. As some of you are aware, the city of Reading is actually in process of creating a CRIZ or NIZ authority. We have some more information on that on the next slide, but that is something that we are paying attention to. And of course, connectivity. So lead the way through communication and model policy making. Another portion of the toolkit concept that we're working on, which is that we can provide some model policies, that we can provide some pathways to make it easier for everyone to accomplish our shared goals, then I think we will have accomplished a major win. And we also are planning some future forums. I would personally like to see a workforce affordable housing forum, potentially a developers forum. And I think those are going to be important to continue to drive the message on housing, economic development, Imagine Berks, all of it. So that's what we're working on. Next slide, please. And then this is some information on the particulars of the CRIZ and the expanded NIZ. And I believe that Timothy is on the line, is he?
Yes, I am.
All right, Tim, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jamie. Thank you for the invite.
No worries, no worries. I'll give you some time here to just explain the particulars here on the CRIZ and NIZ. You did such a good job the other day that decided to call you up again.
Sure thing. I'd be happy to. And good afternoon, everyone. For those who are not familiar with the CRIZ and NIZ, these are the CRIZ Authority program was created initially back in 2013. It's been around since then. It was expanded in 2016, and even though there's statutory authority to create up to 2 additional CRIZ authorities every year, during the prior gubernatorial administration, there was just a policy decision not to approve any. what we've been told is that the new administration, the Shapiro administration, is interested in potentially kickstarting this program and looking at this as an opportunity. The city of Reading did in fact create a CRIS authority years ago, but for that reason was not able to get it approved through the Department of Community Economic Development. But the reason for the city's now interest is there is a bill pending in the Senate. It's House Bill 1219. This is the big tax reform code bill that would be a necessary step as part of the budget negotiation this year. And when this bill came out of the House and was voted on the House earlier this month, it lo and behold included the creation of a neighborhood improvement zone for the city of Reading. And the neighborhood improvement zone, if you're familiar with the zone that was created in Allentown years ago, very similar. The city of Allentown's NIS, of course, has been very successful, over $1 billion of commercial development. But the reason I'm here today is just to let you know that even though that bill has not yet seen any action in the Senate, they're hopeful that it will pass. And the reason for the city's interest in this in the context of housing is that the proposed bill does specify that one of the permitted uses of taxpayer dollars that the authority would hold would be affordable housing and residential development. So definitely an exciting opportunity for the city to really put money towards a great need in the city for affordable housing. The CRIS authority, which again they have the ability to create one if the Commonwealth would approve it, they cannot do 100% residential development. They would have to do it in the context of mixed use development, which we in fact are seeing. Some of the other CRISs that have been created, being the Lancaster and Bethlehem, they had looked at that as an opportunity to create more residential development, but again limited in the sense that it has to be done in mixed use purposes. So it's a great opportunity. If you do follow the legislature and have connections there, it's worth reaching out to your contacts, certainly to follow that bill. We expect that it'll go through some additional negotiation and markup, but obviously because it would be a part of the budget bill this year, even though we have a partially completed budget, this House Bill 1219 looks like it's going to be the vehicle to finalize some of the aspects of the budget. And the hope is that this NIS authority creation stays in the final bill. As far, if you're not familiar with these programs, I'll just briefly note that the way they work is they leverage taxpayer dollars. So instead of both programs essentially work the same way, where money that is paid in taxes within the zone would, instead of going to the Department of Revenue in Harrisburg, they would be reinvested in the city for additional development. The CRIS authority is interesting because the way that works is the CRIS authority only collects the dollars above and beyond the baseline amount, which is the existing taxpayer, the tax revenue base in the district. The NIS authority, I liken it to the CRIS authority on steroids. It takes every single dollar that is generated in tax revenues in the NIS and applies it to additional development. So every dollar, both state taxes, local taxes, a couple exceptions being real estate taxes, real estate assessment taxes, and cigarette taxes, those still go to Harrisburg, but every other tax dollar goes to this NIS authority if it was created, and would be available to use for a variety of redevelopment purposes, including affordable housing and residential development. If there are questions about it, I'm happy to go through, answer questions, and Jamie has my, complete presentation from the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance last week. So if you would like to see that, you can email me or you can email Jamie, and, be happy to provide a copy.
Yeah, we can share that with people. Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tim.
No problem.
And I think that that concludes my portion of it. I did want to mention, I know Pam was recognized for receiving the award at the statewide economic development conference that took place this week in Reading, which we should be extremely proud of that. That's great that a statewide association like that hosted an event here in Berks County in the city of Reading at the DoubleTree. That was fantastic. Not to leave Imagine Berks out, but we did receive the Smart Growth Award this week as well. So it's been a busy week for Pam especially, but the county commissioners received the Smart Growth Award from the Albright Center for Excellence in Local Government for just the tremendous leadership that they demonstrated and the team demonstrated in bringing about a plan like this together. I think the plan is unique in many ways, and we hope to be able to do a lot with it.
Jamie, thank you. We talked early on when the plan was created about the fact that housing would not have historically been included in an economic development strategic plan. But as you look at the focus areas, there is so much interconnectedness between the focus areas. And it really takes us to looking at some of the root causes about not only land use in Berks County and how that impacts the diversity of our economy, but also our ability to attract and retain talent and have housing choices available for folks, not just folks we're trying to attract, but even folks who live here. And so bringing Jamie on board, including housing as a focus area, and seeing even as he looks at the various resources that can be brought to the table, we've got to bring as much innovative thought to that as possible, because it's not going to be an easy thing for us to accomplish as we incorporate housing into our thought process in the same way that we incorporated talent attraction and retention into economic development several years ago. So, Jamie, thank you so much for being part of the team. And as you could just hear, the incredible value added that he brings to Berks County and to the implementation of this plan.
Thank you.
One of the things that we wanted to do was just take a very quick, like a snippet highlight of what we viewed as successes in year one. And of course, that $28 million really resonates across all of our focus areas and the implementation of year one that'll carry into year two and year three implementation of the plan. We did put out a new website, which will continue to keep updated with information about the implementation of the plan. Brought Jamie on board, incredible success for year one. The adoption of the Greenway plan, the 9 municipal meetings, the whole home repair rollout, and the incredible collaboration, cooperation, commitment among stakeholders. Though the commissioners were clear that this would be a county-led plan, there has always been the recognition that we are not the sole driver or leader of the plan, and that it will require that cooperation, collaboration among stakeholders. And it's just how that has come together and how folks have come to the table has been really profound. We also always want to understand that there are challenges that have gone along with this that we identified in year one. I was asked about this to explain a little bit further the other day to the Planning Commission, competing land uses. I think one of the things that we learned as we went out into the communities and held these regional meetings is that there is concern about continued warehouse development. There is concern about housing development. There is concern about all land uses being able to fit together well. One of the things that we will be doing in year two of the plan is undertaking an agriculture economic impact study. We think we need to bring more data to the table and really have a wonderful understanding of how we support our agribusiness community while supporting other uses in the community that might actually compete for varied types of land. And how does that make the most sense? That's why those joint comp plans that are going to be spearheaded by our county planning commission are so critically important. and getting that local consensus on growth strategies for the county. Smart growth is an incredible overarching principle that we're looking to follow, but that also comes with, it's not without its challenges. Aligning our data. One thing we found is that just because we like to all work off a calendar year or off of the federal fiscal year, not all data likes to play in that world. And so by the time we report out in a mid-year report in February, we hope to have really aligned our baseline data with the appropriate sources that we'll be using so that we can look at some year-over-year comparisons. How are we doing? What do we need to change? Are we making an impact? Are we moving that needle? And certainly communications and finding the appropriate and the best and lots of communication platforms to be able to talk about Imagine Berks. You know, one of the things we were so happy to be able to fund as well was some kind of new website development for BCTV. We think BCTV is an incredible community partner to be able to message out about Imagine Berks. And we actually did a BCTV program, which we hadn't done for a long time with the project team. And it's so great just to be back in that studio and working with those folks and being able to have an on-air presence. So in year two, we think there's some key actions that are going to come out. You heard Jamie talk and mention that $1 million housing investment program dollars. We're looking to see how we can enhance that particular allocation. The rollout of the $5 million in infrastructure with the Berks IDA under Build Small Business and Entrepreneurship. I mentioned the micro grant and the micro loan programs that we are expanding for entrepreneurs and talent and economic mobility. There is a focus on that health Care Connections industry partnership. And the county also received and is working with our partners to implement a disconnected youth grant that came to us. That was about an $800,000 grant that came to Berks County. And then in placemaking, we want to support our main streets. We want to continue to support our Greenway plan, but also one of the ways that we'll be supporting our main streets, I have main streets with customized data. We will be purchasing on behalf of not only our main streets, we think there's broad use for our employers too, a software package that allows us to provide information to our main streets and boroughs about who visits there, when they visit, where they go, where are they coming from. And so we think it's going to be a really powerful tool for them to not only enhance their event planning, but also to enhance their ability to recruit businesses to their main streets. So I mentioned that we have a new website, imagineberks.org. You can get any of the information. The presentation is posted there. The one pager is posted there. Our 1 year physical report that we produced is there as well. And we continue to invite everyone to help us imagine Berks.
Thank you, Pam and Jamie. Terrific. A lot of things happening, a lot of things on your shoulders, but also a lot of movement. It's really impressive. One of the things that I thought was really particularly interesting, and it surfaced in a couple of the topics that you talked about, was the willingness to engage others and to get people to collaborate and cooperate on some of these initiatives. Can you talk about why that's so important, how that has affected the work that you've been doing?
Yes, I mean, nothing gets
Jamie,
done in
please.
silos. No, it's okay. I mean, nothing gets done in silos. My personal opinion is we do have a great community here in Berks County. Berks County already is great. The plan makes us better. And if we communicate effectively and just keep each other abreast of opportunities and learn where to direct our talents as well as resources, then we will have accomplished a lot. And I think that that's where the communication portion becomes extremely critical, because sure, we can do a lot of things, but sometimes I think we miss certain opportunities just as a fact of not being completely aware of an opportunity that may exist. So, you know, creating those pathways to communications and just opening up office doors, you know, just being able to walk in and communicate in dialogue. I think that's has been really one of the major accomplishments of Imagine Berks. I mean, we get together quite frequently, discuss concepts, ideas, plans, strategies. We do that on a regular basis, and it's extremely helpful because we have a strong team, and it's a great environment to be in, to just be able to freely ask questions and not be afraid of receiving a negative response or whatever. We're very much there to support and learn from each other, and I believe that great things will come from that.
Pam, do you want to say anything?
Jamie, you nailed it. And as we're convening folks together, it's incredible the amount of aha moments that we have when we bring together diverse groups of people. So, and I hope we continue to have aha moments as we start in year 2.
But one sign of that was all the thank you notes that we got in the chat function from the shout outs to different people about being engaged, being willing to collaborate and cooperate.
I think by way of example, Dave, this is Jeremy on the IDA, and we went to multiple municipal planning meetings. We had municipalities come in and say, we can't allow any more housing, our schools can't handle it.
Right.
And then we had the superintendents in the room that said, well, that's not always the case. Sometimes, yes, that is the case. And it created dialogue that wasn't occurring, that one, helped the municipalities understand the true needs of the schools when it came to housing. And then 2, help the schools in their planning to be aware of housing projects in the queue, so that they could plan for their kindergarten class and the future of their next grades and how big they should be. And that was something that wasn't regularly happening before these efforts with Imagine Berks, but I think now are starting to happen.
Yeah, I think a terrific point. I was going to reference that one in particular because I know that getting the municipalities to collaborate with each other is not always easy, particularly on things like zoning and planning and development sort of activities. So that's a major step forward as well. And Jeremy, you're exactly right. We've been hearing on the housing issue that barriers being unwillingness to do things. I think that's impressive that we're starting to take those walls down. One other point that I thought was interesting that seems to be surfacing is this economic plan has moved from being a sort of site development strategy to a place development strategy, trying to create a sense of place. That was, I thought, a very significant thing you were mentioning, Pam, through the presentation. How creating a sense of a welcoming place where people want to live and work is important, and seeing that as being part of what you're trying to accomplish. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
So it's interesting that so much of what we have talked about at the local level is being talked about across the Commonwealth right now, as the Commonwealth is taking a look at an economic competitiveness strategy for the state. And a lot of those preliminary conversations have focused more about creating the spaces and places where people want to be, where they want to live, where they want to work, where they want to recreate. And though that sounds a bit cliche, that very thing is going to be a driver of some of the strategies for Pennsylvania, because though we've talked about it and we've given it some lip service, we haven't really followed up with aligning resources and bringing them together so that those things can happen. So when we say in our plan that we are focusing on redevelopment, we think it's important that we're able to provide opportunities to our boroughs to be able to appropriately expand as they see buildings that have been blighted, where they might be able to do something. Having that one spot in the center of your town, and Dina, I'm thinking about you up in Hamburg, and creating a space for people to gather that becomes so meaningful that you can create a sense of community, and that's where people want to be. And so I think it's incredibly important that that is a piece of our plan. Again, I think you're going to see that as part of a broader strategy. You know, also thinking about trail connections being about more than just about recreation. Maybe our trail connections need to be thought about in terms of getting people from where they live to where they work. And so all of that is kind of really coming together in incredible ways. It's going to continue to be important for us because when it comes to site development and attracting new businesses, we're putting an infrastructure fund together. We think we need to follow we're going to follow our growth corridors for existing development, future growth. But as those things are happening, we really need to start to prioritize the other things that go along with just having a site, because that's not it anymore. So I'm a little passionate about that one. Sorry.
No, I think that's a significant statement, because the world of economic development is not just what do we do with a particular piece of property. It's how do we create a sense of community that people feel engaged with and want to live and work in. So that's very significant. I've got a couple technical questions that I wanted to ask. When you talk, Pam, about agribusiness, what are you referring to? Is it just farming?
So we had a really interesting conversation at the PETA conference when Emily Wangolo, who is our director of agriculture, and Kelly Kondratik from Team Pennsylvania, who has worked on a statewide ag plan, came together. And when we start talking about ag and what really can categorically get included in there, because it talks about food production facilities as well. So you're going everywhere from what we may consider when we drive down the road and we see crop farming, or we see a dairy farm, or we see a poultry. So that's what we may be thinking in our head, but the actual terminology is a much broader area. And so what we're going to take a look at is a little bit of the soup to nuts of agriculture as we look at our ag impact. So we need to understand how we support what we've considered to be traditional agriculture, all the way through what might be considered more boutique, and then all the way up through the production facilities themselves. Everything has a place in that continuum, and I'm not sure that we've always best supported kind of that middle range there. I think we understand food production, and on the manufacturing side, I think we're over here and understanding kind of our land use based agriculture, but not that continuum in between.
No, I think that makes sense. I think it's important for people to understand when you're talking about agriculture, you're talking everything from the farm to the food production services. And you're right, the opportunities for that sort of middle tier small businesses that are food related is very, very significant, and very significant for elements of the population in Berks County that are really important. A couple other technical questions. Where do things stand relative to rail?
In terms of, well, you know, we included rail. So from two big, incredible assets to this community, we included the identification of the airport and how we begin to treat that as the important economic development asset that it is. And man, passenger rail has been top of mind for folks for so long in the community. And now to be able to be at the point to have tangible progress through the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority is just a phenomenal place to be. And you're seeing people come together along that rail corridor, and you're seeing folks here in the city and the county start to get excited about the potential of what that really means when that comes to Berks County. And so it's just very exciting to be able to work with our partners in the city and with our private sector partners to look at that as the potential to be this incredible, impactful driver of not only economic development, but community development. Feel,
Yeah,
I heard the mayor say, as I was walking down the street the other day, it is closer than it has ever been before. And I thought that was just really a cool thing to hear because, you know, he didn't know I was walking by, you know, to hear that comment. And it's just, I think there's an incredible belief right now that this can be our reality.
Yeah, my understanding is that we might be hearing something hopefully positive from the Federal Rail Authority by later this fall.
Yeah, Dave, that's right. That the build implementation team in the kind of breakout of the Imagine Berks plan is the one I'm in charge of, and Rail is part of that. And we took a very much supportive position where we'll be injected however they need us. Because honestly, if you've worked with the authority and the leadership they have there, they're very on the ball. They have it going well. So to this point, we've supported and been part of GRCA's plan right now that's being implemented, which is looking at working with the city. It's working with looking at transit-oriented development overlay because we need to get the planning right as we look at rail. And it's looking at the location for proposed locations for where a station would be in Reading. And so we have this kind of localized effort that has to take place, as well as this regional effort between the 3 affected counties. And the Imagine Berks team is on the supportive side of all of it and standing able to put in as we see fit as it goes along.
Yeah, I know the city has contracted through the GRCA with consultants about the transit-oriented development and planning for that. And I think that's going to get to some of Jamie's issues of housing, but also make some decisions about where the station could possibly go. Could somebody talk a little bit more about the strategy and plan for the airport? Because that's an asset that I don't think people really understand or appreciate how it fits in.
So as a member of the Airport Authority Board, full disclosure, so we had an opportunity in front of us at the airport to acquire the 2 fixed-based operators that are part of the airport infrastructure. And so we've put together a plan to not only acquire those FBOs, but consolidate them into one and expand really exponentially the level of service that we're providing to folks who fly in and out of our airport. I think folks would be surprised at the level of business aviation that takes place at the airport. It's something we're very committed to, though folks immediately think top of mind of when is commercial service coming back. I think you again need to understand that level of business aviation that we're able to support. And also, we think we have the potential to expand private charters, and that is a very good pathway for us to be providing some point-to-point service for residents of Berks County and the surrounding region. So there's such an opportunity to, once we consolidate into one FBO, which is fixed base operator. So folks who fly in are utilizing the services of an FBO, whether it's fueling or maintenance or meeting spaces or transportation off of the airport location, that we're freeing up some developable land as well. And there is a waiting list of not only jets, but also other private propeller aircraft to be housed at our airport. So once we start increasing those takeoffs and landings at the airport, we're able to access additional federal resources. And I think you're going to see great things coming out of that area of the county in terms of planned development, both what we call inside the fence on our aviation land and outside on the non-aviation pieces as well.
Thank you. Jeremy gave me a commercial that I'll share with everybody about an event at the airport this weekend. The third one I really wanted to talk about and sort of get in a little bit more detail is the county has made a fairly significant commitment to expanding broadband access where does that stand, and what's the county anticipates going to be happening over the next year or two with that? Any sense? And I
Derek,
said
do you,
that-
Derek, do you want to say anything at all about broadband?
Yeah. So recently, last week, I was in Harrisburg for a city and state update on some stuff from the Pennsylvania Broadband Authority as well as other providers in the region. And a lot of the funding that's coming down from the federal government that the state is going to receive, the state will get in the middle of 2024 to 2025. So they'll be looking to push that out. So that funding is a little bit further out than I think some folks initially expected, but we're going to be looking at receiving county allocations and ability to apply for that funding stream called BEAD funding towards the end of 2024 and starting in 2025. The state is looking to receive just north of $1 billion, I believe, at last number, but that money can be used for expansion of broadband to areas that don't have it or bringing people up to the designated speeds. Currently, the kind of federal threshold is 25 megabytes down, and I believe 15 up. So it'd be looking to get everyone to that level and then pushing past there to a higher level of service. Because as many of you probably are aware, if you have a couple people working at home or you're trying to stream something, 25 megabytes down might be fine for 1 or 2 people, but in a household of 3 or 4 people, really looking at a minimum of 100 megabytes down is kind of the level that the state wants to get to and move forward from there. They're looking to do that between rolling out fiber access as well as some fixed base wireless options for areas of counties much like our own, where there's hilly or mountainous terrain that make the laying of fiber either prohibitively expensive or difficult due to preservation or other easements that currently exist.
Okay, Jamie, there's a whole lot about housing that I think is interesting in trying to find out about. When you talk about the mix of housing not being right for the marketplace, what do you mean? What does that mean?
What that means is that we have to be evaluating housing from all angles. That means when we come up against or come up for apartments, increased densities, all of those opportunities need to be thoroughly evaluated. And the county is very supportive and will be there to answer questions. So all of that would naturally go through the Planning Commission. And there's focus there to help support our municipalities and township in increasing our total unit count. That is extremely important that we do that. I think that there was a time when there was a certain type of development that was occurring when it came to residential. It was quarter-acre lots, single-family homes, and all of that. But the cost of construction has gotten very high, and we welcome those opportunities as well, but we can't shy away from smaller housing units, increased densities, increased heights, things like that where it's appropriate. We need to be evaluating that and doing the best job that we can to try to increase the unit count.
So some of the strategy might be how do we reuse properties that have not historically been housing? How do we add housing to commercial locations?
Absolutely, like mixed use type of developments, sites that maybe contain different types of uses. Absolutely. If those, when we get to those opportunities, they're going to be thoroughly evaluated.
One of the challenges that I think is starting to surface, not just in Berks County, but other places, is the volume of properties that are not owned by residents of the county or I know that's an issue in the city. Is that a significant issue here in Berks County?
That's a complex question, I would say, because we may have properties that are owned from outside of the state, but how I look at it is If they're being responsible with their property, if they're keeping up with it, then it's not a problem. If they're a nuisance or a bad property owner, that could be a local problem just as much as an out-of-state ownership issue. So we need to make sure that we have the right code enforcement for that, so that we are staying on top of the preservation of our housing stock. So, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It really just comes down to the owner themselves.
Okay. There was some conversation, I think you did it, Jamie, about workforce development relative to affordable housing, and how do you make those linkages? We did a community forum a little while ago with a group from Philadelphia, Jumpstart Germantown, that they had talked about that. Can you talk a little bit more about what kinds of incentives could be put in place? What do we need to do? And who's going to do it?
What we need to do is probably increase density where there's already existing adaptive reuse opportunities. That's always a good way to segue into those opportunities. But workforce housing is extremely important. You talk to our industrial communities here, you know, our businesses, and you hear these stories of people driving from one side of the county to the other. There's all kinds of mismatch going on, because maybe we have warehouses in one area, and that speaks to maybe the agribusiness structure. When we get into those environments, we can add some housing opportunities into that. It's not a bad thing to look at your community from that way. So that we can have agriculture, we can have warehouses, we can have housing, we can have that all be part of one community, so that it's sustainable and that people live well and good. I think this plan is just as much about talent and people building as it is about anything else. We have to invest in the people that live here and keep them comfortable and keep them employed and keep them housed. That's what keeps us good.
Good. Pam, you had mentioned something about business to business sourcing, and I know that the Wyomissing Foundation is working on a project to try to encourage the anchor institutions in Berks County to purchase locally, particularly with minority and women-owned businesses. What kinds of strategies do you see going forward coming out of the Imagine Berks plan?
Well, I think one of the challenges that we identified is that putting that in the plan was the easy part, and the difficult part was when we thought that we could even use the county institutions as a model for being able to make connections with local producers. So going the food route first, and what we determined pretty quickly was that our local producers didn't have the capacity to enter into these big contracts and have the consistency of product that's needed for institutional use. So we're still taking a look at that to see if we can break it down, but that's really a much more daunting task than I first realized, because you think it's under our control. How can this be so difficult? It is. And so that's why we're eating the elephant a bit more, a little bite at a time. So we welcome any additional data that comes to us and strategies that can come to us through the WYO Foundation, because that's a really hard one, because we like to say that we can connect our small businesses with these larger users of services and products, but that we have to understand the constraints that the small businesses will have in trying to meet the needs of the larger company, especially when it comes to demand. So we got to work on that. So I'm really open to additional suggestions as we try and move the needle on that one a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and this Wyoming Foundation project, I think, could be an interesting help with that.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
So Jamie, is it important that we encourage more home ownership in Berks County? And if so, how do we go about doing that?
Absolutely. It's extremely important that we encourage more homeownership opportunity, especially entry-level housing. I think that's very important. Housing traditionally is one of the better ways for people to gain financial mobility, to increase their net worth, to gain financial freedom, if you will. Housing is the place where most people start that journey. And entry-level housing programs that aid in that process are extremely important. And we've been fortunate because traditionally we've had a lot of really good partnerships for that. Habitat for Humanity being one of them. I think I see Sunil is in the chat group here, but Habitat for Humanity is an excellent partner, as you saw in the slide that I presented.
There's somebody
They are
else
one
from
of our
Habitat disguising
okay,
themselves.
yeah. I'm sorry, I can't see everyone, but you know, programs like that, NHS, you know, historically, our city of Reading, what they were doing, all of those programs, what they really did was put people into first-time homeownership opportunities. And our community has done that extremely well through the years. And I hope to continue to build out on that and provide those opportunities. Personally, I myself benefited from that. When I went and to buy a house out of college, you know, I received a first-time home buyer program from Sovereign Bank, it was at the time. And really what it was just a little bit of help, put me on the pathway to home ownership and never turn back from there. And I think programs like that are critical to the cycle.
You and Tim had mentioned about the NIS and the CRIS and the hopefulness that we're going to have of that occurring. We did a community forum several years ago about what was happening in Allentown because of the NIS, and that was just absolutely, the amount of money that was able to be drawn into the community was just phenomenal. The CRIS was a little bit less significant, as you and Tim pointed out, but what if we aren't successful in getting the NIS or the CRIS? There was a lot of flashback on those programs during the Wolf administration, as Tim mentioned, about the state picking winners and losers. We got to get the state to where they figure everybody's a winner, and Reading in particular, and Berks County would be great to have be a winner in this conversation. But what happens if if we can't get it? Is that?
Yeah, I don't know if Tim is still on, but my opinion is, I mean, the state is a stakeholder in the process for sure. We're asking them to essentially give up revenue that they're otherwise entitled to in order to aid in our improvement efforts and our development efforts. And you know, Alan Schuman at the presentation made a good point in that when you're designated CRIS-NIS, there's a certain amount of time that you have to do the development. So it's not just the city being ready. It's not just gaining the designation. We have to be ready to tackle those projects. And it will essentially be useless if once we're designated CRIS-NIS, we're fighting over zoning and densities and all of those things. We have to be ready to develop, to actually take action on those items. And I'm hopeful that that's what we'll do. Tim, are you still on? Did you want to add to that?
I am, Jamie. I would just add, if this NIS legislation proves unsuccessful, you know, the CRIS legislation is already, you know, it's already in law. Again, the issue has been more about you know, the prior administration not being supportive of it. But if the Shapiro administration does indicate that it's willing to, you know, direct DCD to start approving 2 new CRIS authority zones every year, certainly, you know, a CRIS authority zone is better than nothing. You know, it's still a significant you know, positive for the city. You know, in the cities of Lancaster and Bethlehem, where CRIS zones have been established, You know, despite, you know, just being the incremental amount above the baseline, that's still a significant amount of money available. And full disclosure, you know, my firm is counsel to the Lancaster CRIZ, and we've advised and represented the Lancaster CRIZ in connection with a series of borrowings that they've undertaken to leverage those tax revenues that they have. So you can't look at it just in terms of, you know, we're getting, you know, a few $100,000 of tax revenue each year from this CRIZ zone. You have to look at it in terms of, with this revenue, we can now leverage this and borrow, you know, maybe 10, 20, $30 million to jumpstart that picture. And keep in mind too, with the CRIZ zone, it requires a $1 to $5 match. So for every $5 of CRIZ tax dollars spent, you've got to get a private developer or at the local, a local chip in of $1. So it's a way to, you know, just multiply the investment.
Yeah.
So,
And I think I saw,
again, it's an opportunity.
yeah, no worries. I think I saw David on there as well too, and Jeremy, but our community has been successful with, you know, tax increment financing and those kinds of vehicles before. There was a great article written in the Reading Eagle with regards to the Cabela's project and how well that played out. Maybe one of those, maybe Jeremy or I think David was on here at some point or another, can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I'll tee it up, John, and then let Jeremy fill in some numbers because it's been 20 years. But and there is a difference between TIF. Tim was making this point, but I was arguing by analogy that the politics of it are similar. When we did Cabela's and all the out parcels and everything at the 61 and 78 juncture, there was a lot of infrastructure that needed to be done, some of which PennDOT could do and everything, but others that they could not. And so we used a TIF, and the politics, you know, the simple version is that people were saying, well, we're going to give up revenue for 20 years. You know, we're not going to do that. Now, I'll tell you, and I want to give credit to Tom McEwen and others who were smart enough, and Mike Setley, you know, to say, well, first thing we're going to do is take it from rural and rezone it to be industrial commercial, and of course reassess it. So we already took the tax base up, and then reestablished the TIF based on that tax base when the property was developed and when the buildings were on there, and used that increment. So that was some of the magic that went in there too. But I think as Jeremy says, the amazing results of all those parcels together being created, the jobs that go in, the occupational taxes, the local earned income tax, and then, you know, add on to that the real estate value now for the taxing entities of the county, the township, and of course also the school district. It's been really, really powerful.
So the TIF might be a third alternative here. We're getting close to the end, and I want to.
Yeah, you do some other similar things to that with a CRIZ. So you know, you can still donate the taxes back, if you will, and leverage them.
I want to go, Pam. You closed your remarks by talking about the year two efforts, the year two initiatives. So what are we going to see in next year? What's it going to look like next year for Imagine Berks and Berks County?
So I do want to say that one of the things that we did, Derek and Ashley and I were up in City Park the other week at the Cultural Diversity Festival, and used that as a platform to put up some idea boards and use some sticky notes to go to folks and say, hey, we did our build sessions for this plan in the middle of COVID, and they were very flat screen virtual meetings. We don't think we got all of the input that we really wanted to get at a lot of levels. And so you're going to see us coming back out and popping up in a lot of different places to invite people to continue to help us put their ideas up of what Berks County looks like now and what Berks County can look like for them in the future. And just over some of the sticky notes that have shown up there. And by the way, if there were smaller kids, we asked them to draw pictures. And we think it's really important that residents of our community understand that we have a plan and that they get to impact what's in that plan. So you're going to see a little bit more of that in addition to all of those institutional things that I talked about in terms of infrastructure fund, housing fund, things like that. So please stay tuned.
If nothing else, getting people to collaborate and cooperate and work together is a major step forward for Berks County, and I think that's terrific news. I want to thank you all for joining us today. We're excited to hear this, and it's neat to see that not only we can beginning to see the impact in the community, but statewide people have recognized what's happening in Berks County as being very positive. So congratulations, Pam and team, for the recognition you got just this week, and keep up the good work. We have a couple spotlights coming up that we'll talk about, and we're going to be doing a community forum in November on around the concept of sustainability. It's going to feature the city of Reading and 2 local businesses that have incorporated sustainability into their strategic planning. So thank you, everybody. We'll send you a copy of this and some of the links that everybody's talked about in the PowerPoint. But have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.